What's going on, everybody? It's your favorite dating coach, Elliot Scott, and as you can see by the title below, I think this is something we all can relate to, unless you're Cleopatra herself. And if that's the case, this doesn't apply to you. But 5 reasons why a guy loses interest in you all of a sudden, especially if he's showing a lot of interest in the beginning. I have a lot of clients come to me and they're confused on how he can be one way one week and then the next week he flipped 180. He wants nothing to do with her. Okay, so if you want more information on this, first off, and if you want to actually get a guy to stay committed to you, check out my ebook below, my guide down in the description. It'll help you. It's almost 300 pages. It's going to give you all the information you need to hook him in. Also, I'm doing a longer, different type of format here. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to do a TLDR version first, kind of going over them, and then I'm going to go more into detail right after. Let me know in the comments if you like it, okay? So I'm going to get the number one thing out of the way. The number one reason I would say it's not the number one reason, but it's a common reason that I think we all realize, so I'm just going to put it aside, and that's, you know what? He got to know you, and it just wasn't what he thought. So here's the thing, ladies, to keep this short, a lot of the times a guy has a fantasy in his head of what he wants things to be. And he throws and attaches you to this fantasy. You have to think of it almost as, like, I have this story I want to write. And you're the character. He puts you in that story and he's going to see if you fit it. You fit it. If he can keep on flipping the pages, become entertained until the end of the story. It's one of those things. If he keeps on flipping and he doesn't see it long term, he kind of loses interest. I think that's the best way to put it. A lot of guys, just like women, have this ideal of what they want things to be. And a lot of times he'll probably love bomb you, go real fast and do all this bullshit that he shouldn't be doing, just to rush the process and see if you fit. And if not, he's gonna move on. Okay, that's number one. Number 2, I have right here. It's too hard to get the assets. Now, I tell women this, and women do not like it, but it is the truth. You can always uphold your standards, ladies. You can always uphold your standards, and you should. But you do not get to dictate your value. You can improve your value by improving certain things in your life, such as your looks, personality, communicate, like all that type of stuff. Being the ideal person for that person, or you guys are in the same tribe. I call it the tribe in the ebook and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, ladies, you don't get to pick your value. And if you are going to try to come off like you're a 10, I'm not saying don't, but what I mean is if you're going to try to make a guy jump through all these loops as if you're a 10 and you're not, he's not going to put up with it. Because why would I waste it on that? If you're going to make me do 10 level work and you're not a 10, why would I waste my time? I could just go spend that on a 10. Women do not like when I say that, but it is the truth. And the same thing applies for you when it comes to men. Men are not entitled to anything. You should not be giving guys the benefit of the doubt like you always do. You shouldn't be giving guys extra chances. You shouldn't be letting guys come and go. These guys who are effing 6s in the real world, like you're making these guys 8 or 9s and then you wonder why you get treated the way you do. I mean, he might be an 8 or 9 in your eyes, but what I'm saying is, like, I guarantee it's not because he's an 8 or 9. It's probably because of an insecurity, a lack of options, an emotional attachment, insecurity. It could be it's always something else from my line of experience on why women take these average basic dudes and put them on these pedestals. I don't know why you all do it. You need to stop, but it is what it is. Number 3 is the assets are not worth the liabilities. This sounds harsh, but here's the thing, ladies. There's a lot of times, kind of what I just said with number 2, where a guy is like, hey, you know what? I do like you. I do think you're awesome. I do think you're cool. I do think this. I do think that. But I just can't put up with this list over here. And the list could be actual liabilities or just things that he doesn't want to get into. So it could be actual liabilities such as like drama, like she's so dramatic, or she's overly jealous, or she needs too much validation. Way more than the average, like something's wrong, type of thing. And I'm not trying to like poke fun at that. It's just the truth. He can say, hey, it's not worth it. Like, as much as I like her, that's not, or as much as I want to get in her pants, or whatever the asset is, it's not worth it. Or it could be actual things that I don't think are a liability, but it would be a liability to him because it's not what he's looking for. So a relationship. So a guy can like you, but he doesn't follow through with things long term because he feels like I'm leading her on. Of course, he probably does it too late, right? 2 months in, he's like, oh, I'm leading you on. But most of the time, a guy would be like, the context starts to build. The picture is getting painted. You can try to, you can kind of feel the vibe, and it's like, yeah, I can tell she's into it more than I'm into her. I'm not going to do it. And then he pulls back. So a lot of times a guy can lose interest really fast when when the context is painted and he's like, yeah, I can tell she's wanting something a lot more serious than I am, or I'm just not feeling it. I can't give her a relationship. And so then he pulls back. The number 4 thing is context, okay? Again, kind of these are all working off each other pretty well. Kind of what I just said. The context is being built. In the beginning, a lot of the times, it's just 2 people who like each other. Very beginning, 2 people who like each other. They're really interested in each other. They like what's happening. Of course, you're going to go after the assets. And a lot of the times to go after these assets or these desires, to get these desires at least, you have to invest your resources, especially as a man, time, energy, effort, money, emotional investment, things like that. And when you invest these things, what happens is it creates context. Context is the seriousness or vibe. And by the way, I go over all this in the ebook if you want to check that out. I go way more into detail. It's the vibe of the relationship. And of course, as a woman, you should assume if he's consistent, it's going on for a while, he's putting effort in, he's investing his resources, he should want a relationship. He knows that. Sometimes he might freak himself out and pull away accordingly, okay? And number 5, this is just the truth. Someone better comes along. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet because I think it's a dagger to the heart. Ladies, both of you, man and woman, should not commit to someone who you do not believe. Of course, if you love them, that's a different story. But I would argue if you love them, it's because you would assume they're the best option for you. Maybe you might not think that like mathematically or statistically, but if you love a person, I think that's enough. But what I'm getting at is, especially in the beginning, the first several months, if a guy is not sure about you, he will not commit. If a guy is not sure about you, then he is uncertain about you, obviously. And if that's the case, he's going to play the field and he's going to continue to look for the best options. Guys do not commit to women unless he's truly in love with her or he feels she is the best option. Now, with all that being said, I said that was a TLDR, but that was 8 minutes long. So I want to jump in now to the same stuff, but a lot more detail if you really want to figure out what he's thinking, and I'm going to break it down, stuff like that. So let's do that. Okay, ladies, now I want to explain it in a PowerPoint. As weird as this sounds, it's like this guy's giving a PowerPoint on fucking love. I still want to do it so you can visually see what I mean, and so I can go into a little more detail for the ones who are looking for it, okay? So 5 reasons, we just kind of explained them, why men suddenly lose interest. And what I want you to understand here, ladies, is before even getting into this, men don't ever suddenly lose interest. If they do, they're emotionally unavailable, because I always say the more love you have, the more feelings you have, the more stable it is. But usually it's something that he has been thinking about for the last several weeks, if not months. I won't say that long, but several weeks. And there are signs that you probably have ignored, that you probably weren't looking at, or that you just probably didn't see. So the first thing I would say is get better at looking at signs, because they are there. I see it every time when I'm talking to a client. They'll give me their story. I'm like, hey, well, there's a sign there, there's a sign there, and there's a sign there. Why weren't you? And these were big signs, not little things, like big, like clear in your face signs. But whether it's rose-colored glasses, you're trying to justify things, or a like bias, a lot of women don't see it. So before we get into it, again, please, if you want to follow me on Instagram, go over there. I put a lot of material out. I put more material out on Instagram now than I do here, but I'm going to try to balance it out. So Elliot Scott Dating is my Instagram. Reason number 1, and we went over all these, okay, ladies? I'm just giving you more detail. You're not the girl for him. Now, men come to this conclusion in 3 different ways. And the one I really want to focus on is what I call the blueprint versus reality kind of concept. Because we already talked about the fairy tale analysis. That's basically where, and both sexes do this, where we have a book. I'm using the analogy of a book, a novel, a quote unquote fairy tale on how we want things to be. And we put you as the character in place, and we're flipping through the pages and we're seeing, does she fit in this scenario? Does she fit in that scenario? Do I see her in marriage? Do I see her how we, when we fight, will she be a good mom? Do I see her long term? Do I see her this? Do I see her that? He puts you in all these scenarios, and when he's flipping through the pages and you're lasting, that's a good sign. And then, of course, the last thing, value versus cost, or assets versus liabilities, or value versus liabilities, however you want to say it. That's one of the 5 things. So we're gonna put that off to the side for later on. So blueprint versus reality. What does this mean? This is how we want things to be. Our blueprint is how we're laying things out. It's how we want things to be. And obviously, because it's us, we want them to be optimal. Reality is what's really happening. It's what's really happening right here, right now. And obviously, as you probably know, the further the blueprint is from the reality, the more stress it's going to cause. So I have an analogy here, but I actually have better ones I thought of prior to or after this. So one would be a test, right? Let's say you're taking an exam. Your blueprint is, I want to take this exam. I want to ace it. I'm going to study my ass off. There's no reason I shouldn't ace it. There's no reason I shouldn't. I put in the work. I'm going to do well. Then the next day you go to school, you're sitting down, you get the exam, and you're looking at it, and you're like, what the hell is all this? I know we all experience this. You're like, what the hell is this? I don't know what any of this is. Why? I didn't read. I read the whole I read all the chapters. I didn't see anything on this. And then you start freaking out. Now, why is that? You're freaking out because your blueprint on how you wanted things to be are completely different than what's happening in the moment. That's also why a lot of ladies, when they come to me, and they kind of get blindsided by a guy just leaving all, quote unquote, all of a sudden, or things just flipping one week from the next. They're freaking out. Now, why? And they have the right to do that, of course. But why is that? It's because her blueprint, you're thinking things are going well, and then reality smacks you, and he drops this truth bomb on you, and you're like, oh, what the hell? It's the contrast, okay, that really gets you. So what does this have to do with you? Oh, let's not go there yet. Oh, hold on now. Hey, now. Now, what does this have to do with you? The more contrast the blueprint is from the reality, meaning the more if we go back here, the more he gets to know you and all this kind of stuff, and he just realizes, hey, you're not the girl for him, the more contrast it is. If he has this ideal girl or this idea situation in his head, and he's getting to know you date after date after date, the context is building up and stuff like that, and he just doesn't see you long term, it's very, very obvious to him now. It's very contrast, and the guy ends up pulling away from it. Okay, ladies? So the blueprint doesn't match the reality. And this usually comes in the form of, like, the more we're talking, the more I'm getting to know you, I just don't think you're the girl for me. I'm sure everyone has ran into that situation at some time. So the second reason is it's too hard to get the assets. Now, when I say this, I'm not telling women you got to be easy, but I'm going to get a lot of flack for this. You don't get to dictate your value, okay? You don't get to dictate your value in the dating market. You can uphold it. You can uphold your standards, but you don't get to, because you don't want to cut yourself short, right? You're not like, just don't sleep with guys, to get them to commit. No one wins from that. But you have to know your value. The goal of the organism, like the chimp brain, the instinctive goals of the organism is to survive and reproduce. And the way we do that, okay, to optimize survival and reproduction is to get advantages, okay? And it's usually advantages through resources. So there's two ways we get advantages. We either save on our resources, time, energy, effort, money. We save on this some way by going either towards the path of what's most advantageous for us, or going towards the path of least resistance. That's what each of these are. So the first one would be, obviously, saving resources would be the path of least resistance. Why would I take a girl out on 10 dates and get in her pants if I could just invite her over and get in her pants? Now, I'm not saying that's what you should do as a woman. I'm not saying to go over. It has to be a balance based on the woman's value. If the woman is an actual universal 10, like in the dating market, a guy's going to jump through the loops. If you're a 5 and you think you're a 10, a guy's not going to jump through the loops. I tell everyone, you can uphold your standards, but you don't get to dictate your value. You don't get to choose and tell men what they want. We decide. Women don't like when I say this. Now, you can choose whether to let us court you or take you out. You can say no and all that kind of stuff. Absolutely. But we're the ones with the resources that we want to invest in the woman. Okay? You are not entitled to our resources, just like we are not entitled to your body. So, men try to find ways to get these advantages, and they do it by either saving on the resources or investing them in the best place possible, aka the right woman. So basically, a man thinks the harder I have to work for something I feel is not worth it, the more contrast and logical it seems to walk away. This kind of goes back to the first point we were talking about, where he says, I'm just not. You're going to see all these are layering up. And this one is going to layer with the first one, and how I just don't see you as the ideal girl. Well, if he doesn't see you as the ideal girl, he's not going to invest in you. He's just not. And he's more likely to walk away. Unless, and again, I talk about this in the future or in future slides, but I might as well mention it now. That doesn't mean, women always come to me and say, okay, he doesn't want a relationship. Why doesn't he let me just walk away? Well, just because he doesn't want a relationship doesn't mean he doesn't like you. It doesn't mean you don't have assets to obtain. Like, he would still want those. But again, it now comes at a cost. It's like, well, let's do what's best for both of us, which obviously it never works out, because it's never beneficial for a girl just to stick around and fuck, or stick around and hoping a guy changes, because then he's just going to reap the benefits and not give it to her because she wants a relationship overall and he doesn't. But if she sticks around hoping he changes, usually things happen where like the guy and the girl are hooking up and he's getting some type of validation from it. So I tell women, if you guys are just on different pages, walk away. But a lot of women will come to me and ask why he doesn't just cut her off. He doesn't like me, just cut me off. No, that's not true. Not liking you versus a relationship are two completely different things. You can't help who you're attracted to. Attraction is not a choice. A relationship is a lifestyle. You can choose to be in one of those. Okay. So a lot of the times, ladies, a guy will keep you around and entertain you for the assets. Okay, because sometimes those are worth it. But when it comes to a push and shove, and it's like, well, I'm not giving you this unless you want a relationship, homeboy. He's going to be like, hey, okay, then we're just on different pages, and you guys kind of split. So he's not going to invest his resources long-term in a woman if he doesn't feel like the assets are worth it. If he does, a guy will jump through every damn loop in the book. He'll do every single thing for a woman. If he feels you're the one, you're ideal, you're what he's looking for, he'll do anything. So 3, and we kind of talked about this, but I want to look at it from a different perspective. And this is that the assets just aren't worth the liabilities. So when it comes to advantages, a man will always ask, is it even worth it? Is it worth it? Is it worth doing this? Assets are anything that helps him get to his personal goal. This can be anything such as sexual favors to getting married. A lot of women, when I talk about assets, they think it means like, oh, a guy just wants to bang. And a lot of times that's true. A guy does want to bang. But it's not only that. An asset can be literally anything that he personally desires that is beneficial for him. It's very unique. It's very personal, depending on the person. It can be validation. It could be attention. It could be your wonderful personality. It could be your looks. It could be you give the best blowjobs. It can be I think she's awesome. She'd be a good mother. I want to be with her long term. It can be a status boost, ego boost. It could be that he really likes video games and you really like video games. It could be you guys have the same interests and goals. It could be anything. Okay? Now, a liability is kind of the opposite. It's where these resources, time, energy, effort, money, it takes more than necessary to obtain these assets. So an example of a liability would be, let's say you're an attractive woman, so that's an asset, but you're very dramatic. You're very dramatic as in you're more dramatic than the average couple. A guy would look at that as a liability, and he would think, well, hey, she's attractive, but fuck, it's not even worth the liability. It's not worth the drama. It's not worth it. It costs too many resources to obtain. Guys commit to sustainability, something that you guys can maintain. Just remember that quote. Men commit to sustainability, something that is sustainable. I have women come to me all the time, and this is psychological, so I'm not dogging on them, but a lot of women would have like these, and I'm not dogging on women, this is a serious issue for men and women, everyone. They would have these deep-rooted issues of like psychological, insecurity, like these deep insecurities, like a complex, and they, from whatever happens in the past, how they're raised, family issues, relationship issues with other guys, whatever, maybe abuse in some extent or some instance, or maybe just insecurity, just normal insecurity. But they would be talking to a dude and they'll be like overly jealous, overly protective. They blow every little thing out of proportion, every little thing. Like I'm even listening. I'm like, come on, like that's not even realistic, girl. Stop. Like things like that, and it just eats up the relationship. Assumptions are the termites of relationship. It eats up the relationship, and then she wonders why she's in the situation she's in. And again, I'm not blaming her. Again, that's deep, that's psychological. I tell them to get therapy for that. Hey, I'm a dating coach. Come on now. But a lot of the times, I would have people come to me, and I'll be talking to them, and I'll let them know, like, hey, guess what? Hey, I'm going to be honest with you, man. You're a liability. I don't say it like that, but you're a liability. Why would a guy commit to this? Like this whole thing you guys have is a disaster. And same with the woman. I'm like, why would you commit to this dude? This guy's a cheater. This guy a ghost. This guy wasn't even showing interest in the first place. This guy's not even putting any effort in. It's you. He's a liability to you, girl. Like, cut this dude off. But people, hey, they want to find out the hard way. So, sorry, that was a long rant. When assets and values are not worth the costs or liabilities, it usually goes down two paths, okay? He's going to, and we just talked about this, he's going to do the bare minimum breadcrumb, or what he believes is the value is worth. So he's going to breadcrumb you or go down the path of least resistance. Like I said earlier, why take you out on 10 dates and spend time, energy, effort, and money on you when I can just have you come over, or I'm going to try to have you come over earlier than that to get the same result. Or it's going to go down the friends with benefits category because, again, we just talked about this kind of stuff. He still wants access to the assets, but not a relationship. But I really have to emphasize this to a lot of ladies. You will know if a guy wants a relationship. It will be progressing towards one. If it's not and he keeps you around, you are giving him access to the assets, the thing that he wants. 6 to 8 date, ladies. You guys got to cut a dude off, okay? This is what you got to do. So, what are reasons he doesn't completely cut you, or sorry, if, going back to here, if he does put you in the friends of category or friends of benefits category because he wants access to the assets, right? Well, okay, so we're both in the picture still. Well, what happens if he does cut you off? What are the reasons a guy will cut you completely off? Number one, it's not worth the hassle. So let's say, again, maybe you're not high drama, but you're standing your ground, and he wants to get it in, but you're not letting him, and then maybe you slip and he gets it in, and then you give him a long spiel or a soliloquy of text, and and then he's like, oh, it's not even worth it. He pulls away, and then he thinks about a month later coming back around. He's like, man, fuck that, it's not even worth the hassle, it's not even worth coming back. It's just not worth it. Is what it comes down to. He's thinking it's not even fucking worth coming back to. The next thing is you two are obviously on different pages. No matter what, at the end of the day, someone's going to get hurt. One of you are going to want a relationship. One of you aren't. It's either going to be you getting hurt or him leading you on. None of those are good. No one benefits from either of those. Believe it or not, ladies, guys do not like leading you on. It's a horrible feeling. And then lastly, there's just a fight and disagreement. There's animosity. I hope I spelled that right. Pride and ego may take over. And it's just a drop of attraction altogether, and you guys are just done. So, reason number 4 now. We're getting there, ladies. Context was created, and it's just not ideal. Okay? So, what is context? You guys hear me talk about this all the time. What is context in dating? It's the things you two do and say that create the vibe and atmosphere, and usually it gets serious with time. You're going to see why. It's just because it's of an investment on the relationship, okay? So context always starts with a blank canvas. And what I mean by this is it's just two people who like each other, who have desire for each other's assets. You don't know each other. The context isn't created, obviously, because it's new. Let's just have fun. This is why I tell women all the time, if there's anything you can get out of this slide or get out of this damn video, it's this. Take everything a guy says with a grain of salt in the beginning, because it is a blank canvas. He's biting off more than he can chew. The context is not created yet. He doesn't know the shit he's stirring yet, okay? Unless he absolutely knows 100% that you're the girl that he wants, okay? And that he actually wants a relationship, and that he is emotionally available. But in the beginning, it starts off with a blank canvas. The context isn't created. So, of course, he's going to say whatever bullshit, because there's no repercussions yet. I hate to say it like that, but it's the truth. So, what are examples of context? Context can be negative and positive, but I have a lot of positive things here, obviously, because it's going to build towards a relationship, or that's the goal. So, the pace you guys go at, sex, the consistency and frequency, maybe lots of dates, cuddling, future planning, love bombing, threading, future talk, meeting friends or family, the gifts you guys give each other, cute little things couples do, and pronouns, going from me, and I, or you, to we and us. So think of that exhausting list, ladies, as a vehicle to deliver these resources, to get these desires, these assets that I desire from you, okay? It's going to cost me resources. No woman's just going to let a guy have it, or you shouldn't, okay? This is why I tell women, stop giving it up so early. If you want to, that's fine. Stop giving it up so easily. 4th date plus, okay? Make a guy invest quality time, his energy, his effort into the details, and his money, and just quality anything. Make him invest in you, because if you don't, he's going to take advantage of it. You have to understand, to create all this context, it takes desire, or it takes resources for him to obtain it. If it doesn't, he's not investing. If he doesn't invest in you, he's going to take advantage. It's just simple, ladies. So obviously, the more he's putting into it, the more he's investing the resources. It's painting the canvas. It's painting this canvas, and guess what? It's painting the picture of a relationship. Most of the time, it's painting the picture of a relationship. There's no reason it shouldn't be. Okay, and so he goes he has two paths. He can say, yes, we're on the same page, let's continue, or I don't know what I want, or he gives you whatever bullshit excuse, then proceeds to pull away. But a lot of the times, like I always say, context is created through a fast pace and some eagerness for the desires, without realizing the picture he's painting, aka he's biting off more than he can chew, and he pulls away. Lastly, he found hey, this is harsh, but it's the truth, ladies. He found someone a little more ideal for him. So there's 5 things that men commit to, okay, long term. This is just logical. There's more, but I would say these are 5, or a lot of things can fall under one of these 5. It's just logical and it's evolutionary. Why would a guy commit to things that don't benefit him? But you're the best option he can get. You're very attractive, highly sought after. And the reason the highly sought after, ladies, you got to fake it till you make it. The reason the highly sought after is important because it comes down, again, to advantages, competition. If I can get a woman that everyone else wants, it's a power dynamic. It's a status symbol. I'm the one, like, she chose me. She chose me, not you. And there's a reason why. That makes me a powerful motherfucker. Guys like that shit. So you make him want to be a better person or to do better, just become better. His life is better with you in it than without. And of course, you have a lot of assets and limited liabilities. Again, from a logical perspective, ladies, a man, his chimp brain, are the ones investing resources. This goes back to number 1, what we said about on how, or number 1 and 2, and saving resources and investing them in the right things. It all comes full circle now. Okay, we're only going to we have to make the right investment. Any type of investment, okay? We want to make the right decisions. We don't want to be anxious about it. We don't want to freak out over it. We don't want to second guess it. We don't want to think, oh, did I make the right decision? I don't know, man. No. We want to be sure. So you have to carry yourself with confidence, ladies. You have to carry yourself with confidence. You have to act and know and be the fucking shit. You have to know you're the one. So all this anxiety, I understand it, but all this anxiety and insecurity and validation and second guessing and quadruple texting and all this shit, it's a turnoff. If you're not sure, why in the hell would we be sure? We want to invest our resources into something that is surefire. That's another reason why a highly sought after woman is a very attractive woman. There's a reason she's highly sought after. We follow the crowd. So with all that being said, ladies, those are the 5 things, or the 5 reasons. Hopefully that was enough detail. I can go into more, but what I was going to say is if you need more detail, I have my guide right here. Commitment Secrets. This goes into deep detail on attraction and male psychology. It's about 275 pages. I'm always adding to it. And here's some people who like the stuff I teach. I'm getting them in relationships. I'm getting them dates. If you just follow what I say here, everything's going to be good. Okay, ladies? I love you all. Take care and peace.